You are fast-moving and fast-thinking. You're good at solving puzzles and at communicating information. You are the eyes and ears of the auxiliary. You are Recon. All right, you scum, suit up! Recon is obviously short for reconnaissance, which refers to the gathering of information. Information is knowledge, and knowledge is power. The more we know about the battlefield, the better. So if we can figure out things like where the mission location is, where the MacGuffins are, where the NPCs are moving, and obviously enemy troop movements, the better. We can better plan, we can better avoid the enemies, we can more quickly get to the locations, we can complete our objectives much faster if we have information. So the role of Recon is to get out onto the battlefield, to spread out, to move quickly to wherever there might be information that we need. They will often be skirting the very edge of the boundaries in order to go all the way around to avoid enemies. They might also take the shortest route to see if that route is currently viable, and be constantly sending information back to the rest of the auxiliary and the crew, to the command structure, to be able to decide, okay, we need to move this way, we're going to go that way, I need this squad to go that way, here's where these are, we've got incoming from this route, things like that. And for that to happen, we need Recon out gathering that kind of information. Now for me, the term Recon refers to the concept of the gathering of information as opposed to an individual. Individuals who are dedicated to Recon, whose loadout is built around Recon, I'm going to refer to as a scout. Now the purpose of scouts is not to engage the enemy. They need to be armed in case they do encounter the enemy, but their role is to gather that information and make sure that it gets back to the command column and to the command structure intact. And that either means that they need to be able to radio it back in, or they need to be able to physically get back to it, which means they're gonna need to be able to run. And they're gonna need to be able to run for long periods of time. So let's take a look at my recommended scout loadout. I'm going to recommend pistols and a dump pouch. Dump pouch obviously for socks or for ammunition, possibly for MacGuffins. You also might consider having some kind of a backpack or a satchel or something that would allow you to carry MacGuffins, mission objectives or whatnot. I might not recommend having the thigh rig holsters. I would actually probably more recommend having them up on the waist, because the thigh rigs are going to be bouncing around a lot when you're running, and there's more of a risk of them coming out, and it's also a little bit more cumbersome, where having them on the waist is a little bit more stable when you're moving, which would make it both easier to draw while sprinting, but also to holster, and just in general less likely to pop out. But I recommend pistols that can be used one-handed. For the obvious reason of you can use two of them, thus doubling your firepower. I also recommend pistols that can be used one-handed in case you are carrying something, like a MacGuffin. You are quite possibly going to be the first person to get to a mission location. You might get there ahead of the zombies, and you might have the opportunity to grab whatever the MacGuffin is and run. And you're going to you might have to run and gun, so you're going to want something that you can use one-handed. Now in that situation, you might actually consider swapping in something semi-automatic to allow you to lay down a great deal more firepower either on your way in or your way out. The ability to dump a magazine to give covering fire to yourself so while you run. Whether you choose to carry extra magazines for that or if that is your last ditch thing, kind of up to you. It wouldn't be terribly hard to carry a few extra magazines. Some of these holsters are even specifically designed for it. Obviously, half-dart magazines are small enough you could easily carry a couple on your belt without it being much of a hindrance. So that is another definite option, Springer and Flywheeler. Another option that you might consider would be to swap in something with more range and accuracy, like a Spamp, which would give you a little bit of a sharpshooter element and might again give you an edge if you've got the drop on your enemies. But ultimately the key is, can you run in this loadout? Can you sprint in this loadout? Because Recon is likely going to have to do that for a lot of the game. And so you can run a heavier loadout or an even lighter loadout, whichever loadout really works for you, as long as you can move very, very quickly in it. So let's talk about Recon in the larger sense. As I said, it's more of a concept, the gathering of information. And yes, you can have individual scouts or even pairs of scouts that are going out and trying to go as unnoticed as possible, either by going the long way around or by trying to blend in or just trying to be unseen as they go around. But you also can have whole Recon units, which are a whole different concept. With a recon unit, you're going to want to have a more variety in the loadouts that you have. You're definitely going to want to have scouts because they're really the best at recon, but light infantry is also very useful in a recon role, and you might, if you're a large enough squad, you might even have a heavy in there for squad support. I would go on the lighter side of heavy as opposed to, say, a full-on juggernaut level of heavy, but more of, maybe a Jupiter proton pack or something along those lines, where you could definitely still move quickly, but you have that incredible amount of firepower. That kind of diversity in the scout unit would be very valuable. Sock ninjas would also be a good option. You also might want to have a sharpshooter, which I will go into that video a little bit later. But the point is, you need to be able to get to where you're going, and you can either do that by being sneaky and trying to get around, or being really, really fast, or by just blasting your way through. That tends to draw a lot more zombie activity, but you can also really just be fast-moving, firing as you go, blow a hole through, get the information, look around, blow right on through, and if nothing else, draw the enemy off to follow you so that the mission squads or the command columns can come in behind you. But during all of this, you should be relaying the information that you're gathering. There are this many zombies, they're in this location, we found the MacGuffin, it's in this location is completely clear, there's a large group of non-players coming through, you might want to avoid that, or the zombies are moving near them, or information like that, just so that the command column isn't surprised by what's coming up. You also want to relay what you're doing. The risk of all of this, of course, through radio transmission, is our radios are probably not going to be entirely secure. And we're going to have auxiliary who had radios who might get taken out, who feel no loyalty to not, eavesdrop on our radio frequencies, which is perfectly legit. Rude, perhaps, but legit. So it might actually be better to have runners who are physically relaying this information back. And for that, you're going to need to be either really, really fast or really, really sneaky. And so the loadouts that are better for that are going to be like your scout loadouts, because you might have your holsters in such a way that they're very unobtrusive. Or you might just have your stuff tucked into cargo pants, and so you're really hard to notice, as opposed to just overtly having them on a belt or something. And things like sock ninjas obviously are going to be able to move through the field a lot easier without being noticed, and can get that information to where it needs to be. And that's really the key to recon. All right, I look forward to seeing you on the field of battle. Bangarang!